Hello, welcome to Abiding Life Studios. I'm Noah Wells. Today I have with me Shay Wells.
Hi.
Hello. And I also have Steve Reinhard.
Hi, Noah, Shay, and Matthew.
And I also have Matthew Doerksen, and he's from Alaska.
Hello, Noah and Shay and Steve.
How are you?
Doing well.
Well, good. Well, I do want to start out by saying my Uncle Pitts, we did a podcast with him. Steve gave him a shout out the last podcast we did. And while we were doing that last podcast, after we ended it, I got a text message saying that Pitts had left here to go be with Jesus. So, we've, at least for me, I've been going through that grief of missing him and just how much he meant to me and all the great things he did for me while he was here. So he will definitely be missed. I don't know if Steve, you want to say anything about him?
Yeah, I just really am so glad we got to do a podcast with him and connect with him and hear his enthusiasm for life and Christ and his struggle, how genuine and authentic he was with his struggle with cancer and his treatment, actually.
Yeah.
I just appreciate him and him sharing life with us and being with him a long time ago, one of the men's retreats. So it was super sad for me to hear that he had gone, but at the same time, I'm pretty happy for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I know he's not in pain now and he's enjoying his time there. So that's good.
Yeah,
Well,
it's super hard to watch someone suffer and be in pain. And
yeah,
for me to feel so helpless to do actually anything about it is,
yeah.
I don't know. For me, that's kind of one of my greatest pains. So I would imagine his family might feel some relief.
Yeah, I would agree. But yeah, he'll be missed for sure. So what are we going to be talking about today, Steve?
Well, last couple times ago, or last time maybe, we were talking with Matthew about what it was like for him with his son being in the hospital and really having surgery on his skull and having part of it removed, and then not being able to walk and strokes and talk and learning and Matthew's experience of that and how he walked with the Lord through it all. And I'm just so grateful to be with him here today again and to recognize the deep faith and what a man of God he is to go through that and come out where we're at now. I mean, it's still in the process, and to be able to be so authentic and genuine and tell us what that was like for him I'm just really feeling grateful. And one of the things that he had mentioned last time that we talked about to do a podcast on would be some of the what-ifs he was telling himself. And oh my gosh, I heard that and I thought, must have 1,000 what-ifs. And they always cause me so much agony. So we thought, well, let's do a podcast on what-ifs, and maybe some of us have some, and then Matthew could share some, and then if we're interested, because we could actually, I've got a really cool tool that helps us deal with them and kind of make them pop and go away if we want to. I mean, I think they got a lot of value, so we may not want to do that.
No, I'd like to try it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe Matthew, do you want to kick us off and tell us, maybe you still have some of those what if things running in the background.
Yeah, well, I do, Steve. Even Sunday morning, we woke up and I went down to the church early because our church actually opened up here in Alaska, and I was helping with ushering and social distancing and all that. And my wife texted me and said, "Please pray for Michael. He just doesn't seem to be. He seems like he wants to go back to sleep, and he says his head is hurting." and immediately it's the what if thing, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
What if he's having a stroke on the right side of his brain this time, and then he can't use his left side, and it's just absolutely terrifying. And yeah, that's a really big one. And just somehow trusting that even if that happens, God has a plan. Like, it doesn't catch him off guard, although it might catch me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you would be ready for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not. There's no way.
Exactly. I don't know if you'd ever be ready for something like that.
Yeah, it just feels like that would be the end. Like, how could things continue on with another, what we've gone through, just a repeat?
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. So.
Well, and it would be so many what ifs, not just what if this happens, but then like what would next week look like? What would finances look like? What would his life look like? What would our life look like? Like that one, what if he has a stroke on this side of his brain turns into 500 other what ifs. It's not just that one. Then your brain starts spiraling into, oh yeah, and then what will my life look like? What will our marriage look like? What will his life look like? And I'm sure that then that spirals even more instead of just that one what if.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely linked into all the other ones because it totally changes life.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, job and relationship with my wife, and it's all over the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know, like with Emily, because she was born super sick, and I went through so many what ifs then. And when in second grade, she had her tonsils taken out, and she was flight for life then, and all of my old what ifs came back. And so I can kind of relate to you in that of like, I'm sure a lot of your first what ifs when all of this first happened to him, a lot of those came back up with this second thought where like with Emily, all of a sudden what ifs from 8 years ago started coming back up, but then they were spiraling even more.
Hey, what were some of those?
Well, when she was born, I was 21 and a single mom. And so my first what ifs were, what if I have to take care of a special needs baby on my own? I don't have a job. They said she'd never walk or talk or breathe. So what if I can't take care of her?
Mm.
What if I'm not capable of that? What if I don't have the funds? It's expensive to raise a child anyway, but a child with severe medical needs is, as a 21-year-old single mom, I mean, I as any parent, I mean, you just go through all of that. And so there were a lot of those, like, would my heart have the capabilities to love her? I didn't know if I would have the capacity within my heart to love her at that moment.
Yeah, so maybe we would say that as if what if we might say what if I can't love her? What if I don't love her?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying, huh?
Yeah.
Because parents are supposed to always love their kids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This should.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shoulds of it, of you should love your kid, but then when you're faced with some hard moments, I think that we then question our own abilities to love them because we're only human. And so, and I don't know if you felt this way too, Matthew, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I didn't know if I would have the capacity to love a human that needed so much from me. I didn't know if I was going to have that. And I'm sure I would have. I'd like to think that I would have, but I think that was definitely a should of I should love my child no matter what, but I don't know if I can.
Yeah, it's definitely been there.
Yeah.
Struggling with how to deal with him, and also the the what ifs, you know, if I were to lose him, what if I were to lose him, and the pain that's involved there. And so I know there's been times where I felt myself like wanting to pull away a little bit emotionally from him, just because it's so painful.
Yeah.
And what if I were to lose him and have to go through all that pain again? The thought I had or was losing him. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you guys for telling us those really intimate moments in life. It's really beautiful and hard to hear, actually. Noah, how about you? Do you have any kind of what ifs?
Oh, I have a list of what ifs, Steve. I think one of my biggest what ifs, I know it's kind of, I can't really do anything about it, but my what if is always, if I lose Shay, if she dies, just, I don't know, like for me, her and I are so perfect for each other, and she's helped me go through so many hard times in my life. So that's my biggest what if Shay dies, because then I don't know, I go down this big rabbit trail of all this stuff that I would just destroy myself. And I think about it a lot for whatever reason. Not saying I'm trying to.
What if?
Yeah.
How can I get rid of my wife?
And then
I can help. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and then I got one too that, you know, what if my actions, or what if I've said something to someone, or what if, I don't know, one of these podcasts destroys the ministry. So I definitely have that thought a lot of, my dad worked so hard to get this ministry going, and what if I destroy it just from, you know, I'm a pretty open book, so sometimes I'm a little nervous when I open my mouth and say something. You sit there and kind of sweat a little bit and wonder if you're just going to wreck everything my dad worked so hard for. So that's a big what if for me.
Yeah, those are both kind of scary. If you lost Shay, like you said, you probably do destroy yourself, and then
Yeah.
Probably that following on that would be you'd also destroy the ministry.
Yeah.
So you know, having those thoughts roll around in our minds is super scary. You know, why? Because those would be like me hearing those things is because I care about you so much. I wouldn't want you to destroy yourself. And you know, the ministry is about people, and so I wouldn't, you know, I like the people that are involved. So the ministry I could care less about, but it's the people involved that I love.
Yeah.
And your dad was like that. He didn't want to make a kingdom.
Yeah.
And so, but I get what you're saying. You wouldn't want to hurt any of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, so I'm, you know, and hearing about Matthew's concerns and Shay's concerns about, you know, being having enough love, the capacity to love a special needs kid, and you know, and questioning in that. To me, why would we want to get rid of these what if statements? They say such beautiful things about you guys. You know, like, can you think of anything beautiful or awesome they say about each other?
Well, I mean, if you think about the what if I don't have enough love, it just means that you love your kids so much that you're afraid of not loving them enough. And I think that even just as a parent, I mean, she's fine-ish. She's 12, so she's a little moody, but like, you love them and you still wish you could love them more. You know, like, no matter what your kids have gone through, no matter what you go through as a parent, I feel like we all always wish that we could love them more, and that we always wish. And so I think that having the what ifs or the shoulds with loving your kids, I think just shows how much you do love them because you want to give them everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of demonstrates how much you do love them
Mm-hmm.
just by having those. Anything else pop to mind of what advantage it would have to be saying these things, having these what if statements, like for Matthew? Maybe Shay or Noah, something might pop to your mind about what he was saying. He said, what if he has a stroke on the right side and he can't do anything on his left side? If use his left side. What if that happens?
Well, as a parent, I could say, yes, that would be absolutely awful. But when the reality comes, like, you would step into that role and he would still be amazingly cared for and he would still be loved for and you would still have the capacity to care for him and love him and those things. And although it would be scary, like, before all of this happened, you never thought that you would have to go down this path, but you have, and he is still loved on. I've seen the videos. He is still so loved on, still so cared for. He is the happiest little guy. Like, I just want to squeeze him because he is so cute that, like, that if that happened, you would still be the dad that you are and you would still be the parents for him that you are. As much as it would be not fun to go through.
Yeah, I agree. I see what you're saying. And that came to mind too when Steve asked, what is the good part of the what ifs? And that is, realizing how much, I love our little son, Michael, and how much you love your daughter, or even Noah, how much you love your wife, and having her, or the thought of not having her there, is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the good part of it for sure, Steve.
Yeah, and if you could flip it over and say, you get a text from your wife and she says, "Oh my gosh, pray for Michael. Something's going on." And what would you think if what would you think? Say it's me, and I get a text from your wife and say, "Oh my gosh, pray for Michael. I'm not sure what's going on. He might be having another stroke. Something might be going on." And instead of me doing what you did, saying to yourself, "Well, what if he is having another stroke and its effect on his right side this time?" Instead, I say, "Yeah, if he has a stroke, it's okay. No big deal. If it affects his right side, yeah, so what? What would you prefer? That or the what if?"
Yeah. The what if shows that you care.
Yeah.
Shows that I care. Shows that Noah cares.
Yeah.
Shay.
Yeah. So even though it might cause us a agony or pain to have those things, and Noah and I've talked about this before, maybe we don't want to get rid of it entirely. And that's where I really like to be able to do a little measurement or testing and say, okay, well, so how much do I believe he's going to have a stroke on the right side right now? And maybe it's 100%. What if that happens? But if I believe it 100%, maybe I just need to dial it down and not believe it 100%. Maybe I could dial it down and just believe it 10% and still be the caring, loving guy I am without it causing me so much pain. Does that make sense, or am I way off base there?
No, I think that makes sense. It's definitely something where you can not have it consume me to
Mhm.
that the 100%, and knowing it's still there and I still care for him because I don't want him to go through that, but yet not letting it be a consuming factor where my every waking moment is consumed with the. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I like it because I always think there's two ways to look at stuff. And yeah, I guess I never thought of what ifs I actually care then. So it's nice for me to think, oh, wait a minute, I'm thinking what ifs all the time, but it's really because I care so much. It's not, I guess my what ifs I've always thought was such a negative thing, and I shouldn't think that way, and I need to take it away. But of course, it's never worked for me to take it away. Ever. It always just comes back more.
Yeah, because I don't know. In a way, for me to be able, and this might sound kind of weird, but in a way, it's for me, it's almost like when we get to share our what ifs in a genuine way like this, and they're kind of scary to us when we run them to the extreme. But when they're not run to the extreme, what I get to see in just a few moments when you guys shared yours with me was I get to see Jesus. I get to see Jesus in you, uh, and have that experience of his kind of overwhelming love for each other and for our kids, and it's pretty special actually.
Mm.
Uh, um, and we do have. Are there any other what ifs that you guys would like to share while we're yakking?
Yeah, Shay, I want Shay to share this one that she had today, if she doesn't mind sharing it. It was,
That one.
yeah.
So one of the ones that I think about quite often is, what if God does answer my prayer and I have to acknowledge that he really does love me? Because it's so easy for me to just say, see, he's not listening. See, he doesn't care about me, and have my pity party. That's way easier than me going, oh, wait, he does listen to me, and he does love me, and he does want what's best for me. And so sometimes I'm almost afraid to pray to him or talk to him about anything because I'm afraid he'll answer it. So it is kind of this what if of like, what if he does answer this? Then what am I going to do with that?
So that's kind of a reverse one, but that's really great. So what would you say, Matthew, if you were to think about that, what Shay just said, that what if God does answer my prayer and I'd have to acknowledge that he loves me? What would you say that says about Shay that's pretty awesome and wonderful? And also, what would you say, what would be the advantages to saying that, for Shay to say that to herself?
Well, to me, it says that she really wants God's love so much that she's concerned that she might have to really acknowledge, it's one of those fears that you run through in your mind where it's like, I want God to love me, but does he really love me? And then, will I really have to acknowledge that he loves me? I don't know, that's what it says to me, that she really wants God's love so much that she's afraid to acknowledge him. And I can see that being a very real thing. Does that
Yeah,
answer?
so it's so cool because to me that says the same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, she wants a close relationship with the Lord. She doesn't want a status quo. She's not willing to settle for the status quo. She wants all that he has for her and won't settle for anything less. You know, if she would, she would say, God doesn't ever answer my prayers, and it just proves what I've always known all the time. He's a jerk. He doesn't care about me.
Yeah.
But instead, she's like flipped it, like totally on its head. It's like, oh my gosh, what if he does answer my prayers? It puts for me her in a wonderful light, that she sees herself as compassionate, a woman who's super motivated to have a close relationship with the Lord, and it puts the Lord in a great light. Like, yeah, I'm there. So, and the advantage of it to me seems like, wow, why would you want to give that one up when the the motivation that what if would create is like, oh my gosh, I want to not settle for the status quo in my walk with the Lord. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
my
so-
negativity.
Yeah.
so that's that, and so that would be that would be where I'd follow up with that, is like, why would you want to let go of that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you want to let it go?
Well, only because I feel like I then hold myself back, because then it's more of like this, why talk to God? Because then if he answers it, because I expect him to not answer, but then if he does, then that's even more scary, because then he proves that he loves me. So I'm just going to stay right here in the middle and not do either one, because it's comfortable. Because if I pray and he doesn't answer, then it just affirms that he doesn't care about me. But then if I pray and he does answer, then I'm going to be like, oh, hi.
So would you say it's easier for you to build a wall with God
Yes.
than to have it down? Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I can stack bricks on that wall all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matthew mentioned that. I'm glad you guys brought that up, because Matthew mentioned that also with Michael, that you sensed that you pulled away a little bit, right?
Yeah.
When you were saying that to yourself, that, oh my gosh, if he has another stroke, if his right side's affected, you kind of pulled away, kind of the same way Shay did with the Lord. And it's going to sound kind of odd, but I think it's so cool that you did that, because it shows how much you love him.
Yeah.
It shows how much you care, how close, if that were to happen, that would hurt so bad, that you would feel the pain of him suffering that, and that Shay would feel the pain of the Lord backing away from her, answering her prayer and then backing away. That would cause you so much pain. You wouldn't want to do that. That's really cool that you guys would actually do that, and then tell us all about it.
Well, and I think especially right now we've been talking to a lot of like married couples and things, and it's so easy for us to just put walls up between us, between God, between our kids. I think we all do that because it's not just like our own protection, it's to protect them too. In a sense of like, I've felt myself, if Noah's struggling, I'll start putting bricks up on my wall, not only to just protect me, but also protect him. Like, I don't want you to feel my negativity. So I'm just going to build like this little fortress around me, because it's not only best for me, it's also best for them too. So like Matthew, it's like, you want to build that wall so that it also doesn't hurt him. It's not just protecting you. It's, I don't know if I can love my kid through this, so I'm going to build a wall between us so it protects both of us. And I think we've heard that a lot with married couples recently. We've heard that a lot between parents. I do it with everybody, and including God, because it's not just protecting me, but I'm going to protect God from me. I'm going to protect you from me. I'm going to protect my kids from me, because I'm the most like not perfect, awful human being in my own eyes. So I'm going to protect the world from me, because nobody needs to experience me.
And I might just self-destruct.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So it's like, I'm just going to stay within my walls, and everybody's going to not, I'm not going to give 100% of me to anybody, not just to protect me, but to protect them from when I explode. There's already a distance between us to where they won't get as hurt because I didn't connect with them fully.
And just to point out, do you know how caring that sounds for other people? For somebody who's so dangerous that they could implode the world. That just, so you know, it sounds super caring that you would want to do that for the rest of us. And so, you know, that's such a great point. And that would be another topic for a good podcast, because that's a role, Shay, that you've taken upon yourself, protector of the universe, actually, protector of the universe from of the rest of us, from Shay. And of course, I would never do that, but some people like Shay would do that. I would never feel protective of other people.
No.
I would just like commit murder to protect people that I care about. So that would be a really great podcast, to be able to look at our roles of, say, protector, or but of what's behind those walls. Because if you didn't have that role, we wouldn't need that wall. If we had a different role, if we could change the roles up of what we think our job is, our job description, and then we could maybe take down a few layers off the walls in our lives, or build them higher if we want to. You know, either way, I think they're beneficial, and they actually do show what a caring, loving person you are. So I don't know how much time we have left, but I wondered if we could take one. I'd love to do this one exercise. If you have like a what if statement you'd like to get rid of or dial down, Matthew or Shay or Noah, you want to pick one?
Yeah, let me pick one.
We could do the one you gave us, if you wanted to, Noah.
What's that, Steve?
We could do that one that you already told us. You know, if I lose Shay, or if Shay dies, you know, that, right?
Yeah, that's probably my biggest one I think about a lot.
Okay, well, can we do that one?
Yeah, let's do that one.
And we won't get rid of Shay, like I promised, that we won't knock her off.
Thank you.
Although I've been tempted, Shay.
Oh, I'm sure you have. You just get in line. There's many.
Okay, so so this is a cool tool that I've used for myself, and it's just ramping it up. It's a kind of an uncovering tool, because behind our what if statements, there's this crazy fantasy that's being played out, an illusion that's running in our mind, and that is, if and for what you said is, if Shay dies, then let's say that happens. What's the worst that could happen? What's the most you're afraid of? And so that's the two questions you ask. So if somebody wants to be set free from a what if statement, so if Shay dies, what's the worst that could happen? What are you the most afraid of?
Probably killing myself would definitely be the number one.
Okay, so that's the worst that could happen, and what are you most afraid of? Will you kill yourself? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so and here's the kind of beauty of this is, like, let's say that happened. What's the worst that could happen? You did kill yourself. What are you the most afraid of?
I guess the worst possible thing that could happen would be God would tell me, you're not allowed in heaven.
Okay, so you're not allowed in heaven.
Where Shay is. And I couldn't even go see her.
See ya.
Okay.
I'd wait.
So so let's just say, we're using our imaginations here. and say, okay, so let's say that happened.
Mm-hmm.
You show up at whatever your imagine heaven's going to look like. You knock on the door, and he says, "You're not allowed in." That actually happens, and now what's the worst that can happen? What's the most you're afraid? What's the worst what you're really afraid of?
Then I'd have to spend eternity with Satan.
Okay.
Yeah, my buddy loves hanging around me all the time.
Okay. So then I'm sure tempted to make a wise crack right now, but I'm not going to.
You can.
Uh, uh, because I like this. So let's say that happens, and you have to spend an eternity with your buddy Satan,
Mm-hmm.
who you hang out with all the time anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like not anything changed.
Very true.
But just being a wise ass here. But so say you have to spend eternity with Satan. Now, what's the worst that could happen? What are you most afraid of?
I guess being alone.
Uh-huh. So being alone.
Or being in the presence of love.
You lost me on that one.
Oh, like being around people that love me.
Like not being around them?
Oh,
If I die?
yeah. If she died, yeah, I wouldn't be around people that love me.
So you were spending eternity with Satan, you'd be alone,
Mm-hmm.
or you wouldn't be around people that cared about you.
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah, that sounds sad. That really sounds sad.
Yeah, it does.
That you would be alone and not with people that cared about you.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't, number one, I can't imagine it, but it sounds sad. But let's say that's the truth, that actually happened. You were alone, and you weren't around anyone that loved you. Now, what's the worst that could happen? What's the most you're afraid of?
I don't know if I can get any lower than that.
Okay, so
I don't know what else would be lower than that.
Yeah, and I think we've kind of bottomed out there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the purpose of this, is to uncover the fantasy, because all the other stuff above that, being alone, is stories we're telling to ourselves. Being alone sounds so real. Sounds like I really don't want to be alone. And maybe you're saying to yourself, I can't stand being alone. I actually couldn't live if I was alone.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm most likely saying to myself.
Yeah. So I don't know. How do you feel about that now?
Like what, the thought of Shay dying, or what do you mean?
Yeah, the thought of Shay dying, and if Shay were to die, you could cut to the chase.
Yeah, I think I've cut to the chase of just, if Shay dies, I'll be alone, and that's really probably the worst thing that could happen. And I wouldn't have, the person that is cheerleading me through life. So yeah, that'd be hard.
Yeah, and so we could take it up again and keep on going. And if you didn't have that person cheerleading you through your life, what would be what would be the thing you're really afraid of?
I think just
you would destroy yourself.
Yeah, I think I would I am worried that I would destroy myself.
Yeah, and if you destroyed yourself, I'm not even sure what that means. What would be?
I think for me, I would just fully do whatever I wanted, and I don't know if that would be necessarily the best for my body.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad hearing that.
Yeah, me too.
It sucks, just because for me, it's like when I think of you, it sucked that you wouldn't do what you wanted.
Yeah.
I would, whether Shay's with you or not, that doesn't sound fun to me. So anyway, so this is a tool we can use to help uncover what's really kind of driving our what ifs on the negative side of the what ifs, not the positive side. If we want to hang on to them, there's lots of great reasons to hang on to them, but it's also a way to be able to let go of them and say, okay, you know, you're saying if Shay dies, you'll self-destruct. And if, and so for and because it says such wonderful things about you, I would be like a crazy counselor to come in and tell you, oh no, Noah, you can get through it. You could walk through with the Lord through it, and you could make it. I would be a complete nut to do that because you're going to fight me every step of the way. Because it's saying to you, I care so much that I couldn't live without Shay. You know, I'd be alone. I can't live without her. I care so much about her that I can't live. Well, we know you can, because all sorts of people die all the time, but that's really what the bottom line is. We care so much that we don't want to let go of those things. So anyway, it's such a cool experience going through this with you guys, and I'll just appreciate how open you are. And I'd love to pick Matthew's brain and see what you're thinking and feeling, Matthew.
I'm just thinking, as I hear Noah talk about what he would be like in this what if scenario, just thinking how much he does. I don't know, it just makes me think how special he is, wanting to be with people that love him and not be alone and not be by himself. Just makes me appreciate Noah more. And also, Steve, you're just going through and asking these questions about, just makes you think about what is the worst that could happen, and that's my what if. And then what am I afraid of? And that would be the result or the reaction. It's really good to keep that in mind if you want to battle this thing out.
Yeah.
Well,
Shay, how about you?
Well, I was just thinking, I hope that whoever listens to this or passes this on really thinks of this in a sense of how much we can help people as other Christians, instead of just the, oh, I'll pray for you. Instead of just the, oh, I'll pray for you, you'll be fine. Because I feel like it's so easy to say that. And I'm not knocking prayer. I'm not knocking, I am all for people praying for things when when we go through troubles or not, and just lifting people up in prayer. I'm not trying to knock that. But I think I've done this multiple times too, of maybe I don't know what to say when somebody has something scary that I've never dealt with. So I'm just I'll pray for you. But instead of having the love and care for each other to sit down and actually kind of walk through these steps with each other, and really taking the time to hear each other's heart in that, instead of just saying, oh, I'll pray for you and God will take care of it, but really kind of taking that step and going, wow, Noah, you are so afraid that your wife is going to die. Why do you think that is? What would happen if she did? And kind of going through it in such a loving, caring way, and also not the, okay, what if she died? Big deal. You'd be fine. God would walk with you. You'll find another wife. She won't be as cool as me, but you'll find another wife, And so I think that there's this middle ground that I think is so important, that a lot of us really miss that mark on, of, taking the time to really hear each other's what ifs and kind of walk through that with us, instead of just, I'll pray for you and God will deal with it, or what if it really happens, get over yourself. But really taking the time to really sit in this middle road with each other, so that we don't feel lonely, because I feel like Christianity can be so lonely. Ministry can be very lonely. Parenting can be very lonely. Marriage is very lonely. All of these things can be so lonely, but taking the time to walk with somebody in such a caring way, like you've done with us today, Steve, I think is so important, and something that I think we all need to just sit and take the time with each other on, of let's kind of go through this scenario
Mm-hmm.
and walk with each other in this, instead of taking that right road of, oh, I'll pray for you, or the left road of get over yourself, but really just walking with each other in love and going through the steps. So I think that this is really important.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. It's such a kind of an intimate. I'm using that word, intimate, in a intimate exercise to do with one another, where we can,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have them. We all have these things going on inside us, and they do say such beautiful, wonderful things about us. And at the same time, they cause us so much anxiety when we let them run to the extreme. It's great to do this with one another, like you say, Shay. And oftentimes, when we get to the bottom, and when I do this with myself, or I have somebody do this with me and ask me those questions, when I get to the bottom, like I did this one time, I was like, started off with a relationship with Barb. Well, Barb's going to leave me. And, by the time I got to the very bottom of the line, it was like, well, I'm going to be living out of a paper bag on the side of the street as
Right.
a homeless person. And then I looked at that and I thought, wow, like my bottom line sounds for like camping. That sounds like kind of like fun, and
Uh-huh.
and then I pictured Barb walking by laughing at me, sitting out on the side of the street. It's like, well, that's not so bad, like, what's the big deal? I'm completely nuts here. I don't have a thing to worry about. People pay good money to go camping. And so I think sometimes we get to the bottom line and we kind of like, um, for me, I laugh at myself because it's clearly fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I know enough people, and I'm shameless enough to go like move into your basement. So I'd never be on the street. People in Alaska, I would go fishing in Alaska if I was not gonna, or hunting, or I'm not gonna be living on the street ever.
Yeah.
So it's just that whole idea is um, a fantasy that I had running in my mind. And so for me, that's, one of the benefits is I get to look at it, and then I kind of have a chuckle at myself and go, oh my gosh, my what ifs are mm, kind of cool, but at the same time, they're kind of nutty.
Mm-hmm.
And I can enjoy both sides of them. So Noah, you have any thoughts on this, or?
Well, I was just thinking, while you guys were talking, I was just thinking how I'm excited to do the what ifs with Shay once we get off of the podcast, because I think you're right. It's something fun too. Because I mean, Shay could tell you I'm the king of what ifs. I can like completely destroy myself. I can go down this serious road of what ifs and keep going and keep going. And then since I'm not saying them out loud or bouncing them off of someone else, I guess, my brain just keeps making them worse and worse. And then once I get to the top, I go back around. Then I top, go back around, and I just keep doing that. So at least for me, I know it's gonna be a huge help for me to just at least, okay, now what if this does happen? Okay, let's go to the next step. What if that happens? And so I'm kind of actually excited to see what it's like to go through one of my big what ifs and go with it with Shay and see what happens with it.
Oh, cool.
Because
Well,
I mean, just like Shay was talking about just the other day, how she builds up walls. Like I was, maybe had a little depression or something the other day, and so she knows me so well, so she can see on my face that I'm not doing so well, and she instantly builds that wall up. And we were laying in bed, and I said, "Are you okay? Because I can tell something's wrong then too." And she goes, "Well, I'm just trying to keep my distance." And I said, "Well, right now I can't have you building the wall. I need you to touch me. I need you to talk to me, push me to talk." And right there, she tore the walls down. We had a great like 2-hour talk. So
cool.
I think just in relationships in general, if you can do that with each other, it's huge. And like Shay said, if you can actually sit there and walk with the person and really just hear where they're coming from. And I mean, the big thing I learned in this whole what ifs is, like I said, I thought my what ifs were there was something defective of me, and you know, it's whatever you want to call it, problems in me. It's not actual love that I have for Shay or any of my struggles. So I don't know. It was a cool little, I mean, I don't know if the listeners will get anything out of it, but I sure did. So I appreciate it.
Well, cool. Well, thanks. I
Yeah, I think exercise.
What's that, Matthew?
Yeah, I think it's a good exercise. I appreciated what Shay said as well about prayer, and you as well about walking through it with somebody, because it's so easy to hear of something that's going on and just say, "Oh, I'll pray for you," but it's like there's sometimes can be no commitment in that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can be just a simple response like "hi," "hello" type thing.
Yeah.
But to actually say, to actually care for that person enough to spend the time
Mm-hmm.
and go through a couple of questions and try and put yourself in that position. I think you're right. That's it. It's something that would be good for me to do as well,
Mm-hmm.
with like, what ifs and what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
And I would just like throw out to our listeners and to you guys is you don't want to do the those questions of like what's it mean to you, what's the worst you're afraid of, without doing the first part what we did, which was, well, what's that say about you that's super cool and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think that part's actually more important,
Yeah.
because we're already beating ourselves up for our anxiety, and we're already beating ourselves up for having these crazy what if statements that sound like uh, doubts and not faith. And so if we can look at the root behind them, which from my perspective is Christ, it's him,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't have to fight him or be defensive over him or hang on to him so tight. I can let go of him and go, oh wow, there's something that's really cool about us. And then I can go, oh yeah, I'm never going to live on the street. I'm part of the body of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like anybody that's living on the streets, like not, well, they don't have to. I got bedrooms, spare bedrooms in my house. Not a problem.
Yeah.
And I know other people do. So
Yeah.
anyway, so I just would say, don't forget that part. Look, what's the benefit? What's the advantage of having,
Mm-hmm.
what's it say that's awesome about you?
Yeah.
That you have these what if, these individual particular what if statements, and then sharing that with one another, like Shay encouraged us to do. You could just ask those questions, you know, like, what
Mm-hmm.
are some what if statements you have, and what's it say about you that's pretty cool and awesome?
Yeah.
I think that for me, being a cancer patient, the times I like people that have offered to pray for me, but I often think that for me, it's one of those things where instead of, for me, when I offered to pray for someone, I'm not a really good prayer so it's a little disingenuous. But also, I would say, instead, if I was more honest, I would say, I'm feeling really awkward, and I'm kind of feeling sad because I want to help you. I want the best for you, and I can't do anything, so it's frustrating to me, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel kind of helpless and hopeless, and so I will pray for you. But that's really what's going on inside me.
Yeah.
When I tell you, oh hey, I'm going to pray for you, and you're in
Mm-hmm.
my heart too.
Yeah.
Those are all true, but the bottom line is I'm really feeling kind of helpless and hopeless, and I want the best for somebody that I can't do anything for.
Mm-hmm.
So Shay, thanks for bringing that up.
Of course. Well, and I was
That
just going to say, as you were talking about that, it just reminded me of how much we all just want connection, and how we're all dying for like to just feel connected. And when somebody says, oh, I'll pray for you, and again, I'm not trying to like say
Bash
that you
that.
shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Say that, prayer is a powerful thing, but there's no connection in that between you and that person. So with you going through cancer, if someone's like, oh, Steve, I'm praying for you, but I'm going to go home and I'm going to go be with my family, and I'm not going to talk to you until you tell me that you're going through another chemo treatment, and then I'm going to tell you I'm praying for you again. And that doesn't feed your soul as much as someone says, oh man, I really don't know what to say, Steve, but I love you, and I feel helpless, and there's not much that I can do for you. And then maybe ask questions to you of like, well, how are you doing? How can I walk through this with you? There's so much more connection within us instead of just, oh, I'll pray for you. And so I like that you brought that up of it's, because for me, I know a lot of times I don't, as much as I talk a lot, I sometimes don't know what to say. And so like, I know, Steve, when we found out that you had cancer, I was like, I wouldn't know that it would be okay for me to say, Steve, I'm frustrated that you have cancer and I don't know what to do for you. And so I like that you said that of like, you would rather have that connection with somebody and someone sit down with you and say what they're feeling of, I don't know what to do, than have them just kind of scoff you off, just, oh, I'll pray for you, Steve. Like, that connection is so important between all of us. And it just goes down to what I was saying before of taking that time to walk with each other. So I like that you kind of gave that permission to, even in this journey of walking with each other, we don't always have to know what to say, but we can still walk with each other.
Yeah. Thanks, Shay.
That's good. I like that. We don't always have to know what to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, because we're always trying to come up with the perfect Christian thing to say to somebody.
That's me.
And it just never comes. Sometimes it does. Some people are really good at it. I'm not.
Well, Matthew just hit the nail on the head, and you can always say what he just said. Always. There's you can never be wrong in saying that one, which is, I just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
That comes across as really connecting and genuine to me.
Yeah.
And actually it grips me right by my heart. And I would prefer that. I'm okay with people saying whatever they want to say, because I know it's awkward. Oftentimes it's awkward in our lives when we show our weaknesses or where we're struggling. It's awkward to be, and I think that's another thing you could say is like, not only don't I know what to say, but I'm kind of feeling awkward and embarrassed. And I'm actually telling myself I should know what to say, and now I'm feeling kind of pressured because it's so, I've got this crazy voice in my head.
Right.
Well, we've kind of got off track a little bit, off of our what-ifs, but it's been really wonderful time being with you guys.
Yeah, it's been great. And thanks for going through that with us, Steve. And thanks you, Matthew, for your honesty. Shay, for your honesty. It's nice when you can do a podcast with everyone who's just not trying to be better than the other person. We can all just be honest with each other and walk in this life. So I appreciate all of you guys and girls. So thank you for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you for the listeners. You guys are great. You guys still giving us comments, and it's encouraging for us that you hear the Lord through us speaking, because we're just people and you don't think anything of it. So it's great. So thanks for the emails you guys give us and Instagram stuff, and we just appreciate the listeners so much. So thank you so much, and we'll do another one very soon. All right, bye.
Bye.
See ya.